Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. Sorry for the slight delay. I went home for Thanksgiving and there were travel plans and the piano at home wasn't really in tune. But I'm back, yada 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 yada, ready to go. So, this week we're going to feature a song we've seen before and then a song, an artist that we haven't seen before, if I'm not mistaken. The first song is actually the one we haven't had before. It's called Estimated Profit by the Grateful Dead. And the second song, which we have used before, is Babylon Sisters by Steely. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we've managed to get the Grateful Dead into this podcast, which is kind of a tragedy that it's taken us, I think, 89 episodes now? I don't think this is the 90th episode yet. But, because the Grateful Dead kind of pioneered the concept of the segue. They would often play an entire set without stopping. Of course, it was all their own songs, and usually I don't like to do two songs by the same artist as part of as a segue episode. I think there may be one exception coming up. But the Grateful Dead really pioneered the idea of just jamming from one song into another, and in their cases, another, and then another, and then another, and then another. And of course, they inspired Bruce Hornsby, who inspired The Brew, who inspired me. So you can trace the whole segue, in fact, the genesis of the Segue Says podcast, back to the Grateful Dead. And I encourage everyone to look up some of their live albums, like Live Dead or Europe 72. Or there's a particularly good one, it's called Two Terrapin Hartford 77, where there's an entire set in which they don't stop playing. They just go straight from one song to the next. So the fact that it's taken this long to get the Grateful Dead into this podcast is really kind of sacrilegious in a sense. But since most of their segues were into other Grateful Dead songs, I have a bit of an excuse in that I didn't want to do the same artist. Mainly also because they've already done, they did those. I didn't come up with those. And I had a few that went into Brew songs, but since the Brew is unfortunately no longer in existence and it's impossible to find their music, you guys probably couldn't follow up on it as much. So we finally have the Grateful Dead in the form of Estimated Profit, and that's where we're going to start, because this is a really cool song. It's off the Terrapin Station album, and I only recently found out that the band wasn't very happy with Terrapin Station because they had Keith Olsen produce it, and he made it very grandiose, very clean, very perfect. And the Grateful Dead never really went for the perfection, sleek, flashy thing. And so they weren't happy with it, which to me is a shame, because if you ask me, it's one of the greatest albums of all time and probably what started my interest in music, if we're going to be honest, because it's one of my parents' favorite albums. They would listen to it all the time, and I just was hooked on it at maybe a year old at the latest. It's the first track. And I only realized this part a couple of years ago, amazingly. It's in 7/4. And it goes through a couple of different keys, but the verse is the part we're going to be concerned with. It's in F sharp minor. It's a very... In the later years, the Grateful Dead had more sort of dark, heavier concept songs. This is one of them, sung by Bob Weir. It's from the perspective of a crazed megalomaniac who believes he's going to rise into divine being and rule over humanity at some point in the near future. And apparently they met a few people like this, usually found their way backstage at Grateful Dead shows. So bear in mind that's the concept of where this song is coming from. And a verse chorus goes something like this. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My time coming any day. Don't worry about me, no. It's gonna be just like they say, and I'm in no hurry, no. Rainbows and down that highway where ocean breezes blow. My time coming, voices say, they tell me where to go. And don't worry about me, nah, don't worry about me, no. 'cause I'm in no hurry. Nah, 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 I know where to go. California, prophet on the burning shore. California, I'll be knocking on the golden door. Like an angel, standing in a shaft of light, rising up to paradise. Yes, I'm gonna shine. My time coming any day. Don't worry about me, no. And we're into the second verse. So as you can see, it's very dark, very it's a very vivid concept, and there's a great bridge that it demonstrates that the Grateful Dead were very musically sophisticated. I feel like not enough people give them credit. They think, oh, yeah, acid test hippies just jamming aimlessly. Well, that's completely not true. These guys were incredible musicians. You've got this bridge. Goes back into the jam section again. This is all in 7/4. That's hard to do. So that's estimated profit. Now, Babylon Sisters we've looked at before. And the video we did that in, it was segued out of Alan Stone's Unaware. And the reason we did that is both songs used an embodiment of the Purdy Shuffle drum groove, which is, it's sort of a halftime shuffle, straight 4/4 with swing, basic 4/4 with swing 16ths, not straight 4/4 because it's swing 16ths. Now, because it's so complicated and impossible to tell what key it's in, I'm actually not going to go into it in as much detail as I did in that video. If you want to know more about Babylon Sisters, I encourage you to go back in the Segue Says playlist and look up the Unaware Babylon Sisters Segue. But suffice to say, it starts a long intro on this F sharp major chord, but it's basically an F sharp power chord because there's no third. And of course, I mean, it's a Steely Dan song. It's going to be ridiculously complicated. Now, the part everyone knows, of course, is Babylon Sister, shake it. Babylon Sister, shake it. So fine, so young. Tell me I'm the only one. And again, as you can see, that little section is in D minor, so already we're in a completely different key. Most of Babylon Sisters, for the purpose of this segue, we don't need to know. All we need to know is that it starts on this F sharp groove. Now, this is a clear 4/4, and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And that rhythm is basically the basis for all of the melodic instruments of the song. The drums have the Purdy Shuffle halftime groove. But now, when we did Unaware Babylon Sisters, both of those had the same drum groove and were basically the same tempo. I actually think this segue between a song that's in 7/4 and Babylon Sisters is smoother. And you're wondering, how can that be? Well, it's basically one of our classic pivot segues. Now, the Grateful Dead had a number of different ways that they ended estimated profit over the years. A lot of times they just segued into another song. But the way I like to end it is with this guitar and bass line that's present right from the beginning. And it ends very nicely on this F sharp. Now, the principle of a pivot segue, and this is one of the ones where the downbeat, the last beat of the first song, functions as the first beat of the second song. So what are you going to do? Just start playing the Babylon Sisters groove. Doesn't matter that you were in 7/4 at all. These songs are basically at the same tempo, so that helps. And basically it sounds something like this. There's a great jam at the end of Estimated Profit. Na 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 na. to end, just emphasize this line. And there you go. Short and sweet. Two hugely complicated songs. The segue is probably the simplest thing about either of these pieces. That said, if you can wrangle them and master them enough to play them and perform them, this segue is just there for the taking. And this is another one of those, I was basically just walking down the street and I had this idea and I said, I wonder if this would work. And I got back to here to my apartment, and the first thing I did was go to the piano and say, okay, you know, can I just go right to the groove here? And the moment that the pieces fit into place like that, and you didn't have to peck away at it for days until it sounded good, those are the segue moments that I live for. And so this is a great one of those, and hopefully you've enjoyed it and you'll be able to use it yourself. So thanks as always for watching, and hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I will see you next week.